Just one glance at the black janitor's hands made the white professor envious. His hands were truly unique. The professor handed him a surgical clamp, and the janitor easily picked up a test tube with it. The professor increased the difficulty by asking him to try with his left hand. Clearly, both his hands were equally coordinated. He returned the test tube to the rack with precise movements that amazed the professor. This seemingly simple task eliminates countless medical students trying to enter surgical work. Even the professor himself had practiced for over a decade to achieve such steadiness. Yet this janitor could do it effortlessly, as if he were born to be a doctor. The professor then asked him to name the instrument on the table. Without hesitation, the janitor responded, "Van Slyke gas manometers." These demonstrations left the professor both shocked and curious. Impressed by his natural talent and determination, the professor asked him to become his assistant and began teaching him medical knowledge. Thomas, who came from a family of carpenters, had dreamed of becoming a doctor since childhood. But in that era, black people were expected to step aside when white people approached, making his dream seem almost unreachable. Yet Thomas didn't give up easily. After graduating high school, he worked various jobs to save money for college. Once he became the professor's assistant, he studied even harder than before. Within days, he could independently calculate anesthesia dosages for surgeries. One day, the professor had Thomas perform surgery on a dog. He drew a line on the experimental dog's belly, and despite it being his first time operating, Thomas performed with precision. The professor instructed him to locate the pulmonary artery and damage it to create shock, simulating human injury. As the blood pressure dropped continuously, most doctors of that era would focus on stopping the bleeding, but the professor wanted to try a different approach, injecting blood into the body to sustain life. When blood flowed into the experimental dog, the declining blood pressure indeed rose, proving the experiment's significance. The professor told him to check the recording device, but Thomas had no idea such a device existed. An entire day's research was lost. The professor's expression immediately changed, and he berated Thomas harshly. These words deeply wounded Thomas. He had thought the professor was his mentor, but now this mentor's words showed no respect. Thomas removed his coat and left the research institute. Suddenly, the professor noticed a notebook with detailed records of the entire surgical process. He realized he had wronged Thomas and quickly went after him, sincerely apologizing and hoping he would return to work. Thomas accepted his apology. Through their combined efforts, they proved that shock results from excessive blood loss when the body cannot compensate, requiring large amounts of blood and plasma. After this research method was developed, it saved thousands of wounded soldiers in World War II. 12 years passed, and the professor gained fame and fortune for the new treatment method, securing the highest position at Johns Hopkins Medical School. But Thomas remained the same Thomas. He had followed the professor far from home, yet his living conditions worsened. He received pitiful wages and faced unfair treatment, making his wife feel he deserved better. The professor brought him to Johns Hopkins Hospital, where everyone looked at this black man in a white coat with disbelief. Fortunately, not all white people were racially arrogant. A white female doctor introduced him to the untreatable blue baby syndrome. Simply put, these children had congenital heart disease preventing blood from flowing smoothly to their lungs. They adopted a knee-hugging position to ease pain and breathe more comfortably.